Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Flight Deck 2 Sim live stream. I hope you can all hear me clearly. Let me know in the chat box, and I can tweak my volume settings accordingly. It's an early one for anyone in the UK. It's currently just gone past 8:30 in the morning. The reason I'm streaming so early is the rest of the household's currently asleep, and I got permission from my party. Yeah, you could do a stream if you want, as long as you get it done early in the morning, then we can go do stuff in the afternoon. So I'm off today. We're going to do a flight from Alicante to La Rochelle, live weather, live times. Lovely morning in Alicante right now. Calm winds, clear skies. I think the temperature's about 18 degrees Celsius or so. And we're going to go fly to La Rochelle, and the flight time today is going to take about an hour and a half or so. The aircraft's already set up. I'm going to step through everything nonetheless to show you what's going on, and then we'll get going on our way over to France and La Rochelle. So this is a pre-release version of the ZIBO mod. It's 3.30 beta 1. There's been some slight changes to the way the auto throttle works and some other systems. Veena is continuously being worked on as well, so hopefully you'll see some of the changes. I'll discuss them in the cruisers. If you have any questions in, say, the lower work phases of the flight, I'll be happy to answer those questions. So here we are boarding at the moment. So everything's already loaded. Just fiddling with some of the settings before we started the stream here. If we go to Avi tab and charts OFP, you can see here's our flight today. Flight plan's all loaded. Sim brief, as you already know, I use quite a bit. It's based off real world data. Same flight plan we use at the airline I work for. And our routing today, if I flick through a few of these pages, see here's all the weather information. There we go. So we're going to take off from Alicante, head towards Valencia, which is actually where I did my last stream from. We're going to go northeast, just west of Barcelona, across the Pyrenees into France, and then we make a slight left turn towards Bordeaux and then descend into La Rochelle. Our alternate day is Nantes, which is just to the north there. Now, if you are willing to stay here for the whole stream, the forecast weather in La Rochelle at the moment is a slight easterly wind, so it's likely we're going to make the approach on runway 27 today and then circle to land runway 09. Now, I doubt there's been many people that have streamed a circling approach live. Many things can go wrong. It's particularly difficult, but I'll give you my absolute best shot for you based on the procedures at the airline I work for. So let's see where we are. We discussed the routing information, instrument cross-check, MF race set, time 0734 Zulu, QNH 1019, 120 feet, and standby instruments are set. It's runway 10 for departure, left-hand seat for the captain, noise abatement departure, procedure 2. Now, looking through here, I'll have a look at the departure we're going to fly. So if we go to airport, we can see here we are on currently standard 27. We're going to push back to face west, out via Charlie, then Bravo, Alpha, and then we're going to taxi all the way to holding point Alpha 4, Alpha 5, Alpha 6. Doesn't matter, I've done the performance from Alpha 4. And then takeoff runway 10, takeoff run available, quite a long runway here, 3,000 meters. The departure Valencia 3 Alpha then. We're going to climb straight ahead on a heading of runway heading 100 degrees until we're 2.8 miles away. Then make a left turn on a heading of 056. And on that heading, we intercept the 068 radial from Alicante. And then when we get to this waypoint called Sumo, we make a left turn on the 352 QDM inbound to Valencia. So all that is loaded in the FMC. You can see here all the points there. I need to actually activate and execute the route first, which is forgot to do. And you can see here I've tuned everything raw data, so we have the nav aids tuned accordingly, the ILS is on standby, and the courses are set for raw data backup. So that's the SID we're flying today as well. So once that's all complete, we then read the safety inspection and before start checklist, because I've done the setup from cold and dark, so you make sure you read all of this up to the point where we get the clearance. But I need to get the APU started at this point, so we can disconnect the GPU. And you can hear in the background everyone's boarding still, so we'd usually probably get the gate shut at this point as well. But with how the immersion works and stuff, you have to wait until you put the anti-collision light on for you to turn off the boarding PAs and stuff with the ZIBO mod and stuff. So morning everyone, looking at all the comments here. Reinstalling X-Plane 11. Rest in peace, my sleep schedule. 3:30 AM here in the S. Yeah, I would love to have done this in the afternoon, evening, which does allow all the guys the west of the UK in the Atlantic and stuff, America, to watch the streams. But this is the only time I could do it. So sorry about that. But I am planning on saving this stream so you can watch it afterwards. So I'd recommend getting some sleep. Awesome. Steve B, best flight simulator channel on YouTube. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. I suppose there isn't many airline pilots spending their time going back onto Flight Simulator. Right, APU's on the bus. We can disconnect the GPU now. There we go. So we'd now contact. We've already got the clearance, so everything's set. So flight level 80 is the SID departure there, and we'd request push and start from Alicante ground. So yeah, flight data sim stand 27. Request push and start. Push start approved. Face west. That's what ATC would tell you in Alicante if it was the easterly runway for departure. So put these off. Open this. APU bleed on. Now the APU is providing pressurization to the bleed system to allow us to start the engines. Add a collision light on. Verify the parking brake is set and the transponder we can now move to out of. So there's the number one doing the last PA. We can get better pushback organised. I think I've already planned the pre-pushback. So you can see here pushback to face west in this direction. So we can just simply push enter.
Coming through the menu when you are ready.
And my amigo is going to come up. Bring his tug. There's the number one shutting the door, just like we do in real life. And from what I understand, better pushback. I've actually never used this, guys. I understand when I release the parking brake, that's when the bridge is going to release. But we'll wait until the tug arrives first, wherever he is. Oh yeah, request pushback helps if I push that for a start. Some differences to real life.
How is driving up?
Lagales 105. I'm from Mexico. Woke up to see the stream. It's 2:30 AM. Jesus, that's dedication. Thanks a lot. I will be saving it, so if you could get a bit, tired, you could come watch it at a later date. Awesome. So, on airport terrain for now. A lot of terrain around Alicante as well, so got to be aware of that on departure. For anyone that is interested, I think this. If you look in the channel description below, you can see the add-on. I think it's from 3D something or other, this airport, so it looks really good, really pretty. Flying into Alicante a lot in my career. My airline, the airline I currently work for, flies into there, so I'm quite familiar with the airport. Yeah, pretty stunning scenery here. I mean, just look at how much it's all developed. Flights in the last years. It's incredible. Johnny Fullerton, when are you going to use VATSIM? Yeah, I think I get this asked every single stream, and I think every tutorial I have has this question, eventually. But sometimes well, from what I've understood, if I go on VATSIM, I'm going to have people flying in formation with me. I might do some tutorials first, then I might introduce some live streaming and stuff. But at the moment, I'm just going to, fly on my own, still kind of replicate what instructions ATC would give you, and then you would do some things as well associated with real life. Bloom's 1212, perfect time here in New Zealand, 8:40 in the evening. Yeah, so I suppose a lot of the people who watch my channel in Australia, kind of Asia way and all that direction, Oceania, it's a good time for you, I suppose.
Release parking brake.
Right, release parking brake. That's very late to remove the bridge, but that's what I understand the only way to trigger for the bridge to remove.
Pushback, and you may start engines.
Awesome, so the pushback's underway, and off we go. Zep1, you're way too early. Yeah, I know. I'd actually particularly like to be in bed, but so I actually provide some continuous content because I'm going to be busy for the next 2 weeks. I thought I'd do a stream this morning because it's the only time I kind of got free available. Right, pushback's underway, and we'll just delay the engine start slightly. That's what we do in real life. We don't just start engines immediately just to save some fuel. Oh, look at this. Fantastic. I didn't realise so many people watching from Norway. Hiroto, from Tokyo, 4:40 in the evening, so it's a good time for you to watch the stream, I guess. Excellent. Oh, hi, Rochelle. Yes, you commented on my video, one of my pictures the other day, didn't you? Overtime cancelled, so I'm able to watch live. Yeah, you were considering calling it a sickie to watch this stream, so no need in the end. So it's quite a short flight anyway. Once we're airborne, the flight time's going to be about an hour and a half or so, and the approach will be the circling approach more than likely, so it's looking pretty cool. Right, so pushback's underway. We'll probably get the engine started now, so clear right, starting engine number 2. There we go, here the engine's spawning up outside. It's pretty cool, all this stuff. Excellent. Love those sounds, really, really nice. nice. But we should probably concentrate on the engine start on the flight deck. So yeah, when we're watching the engine start, carefully monitoring all the parameters, mostly before you give any fuel into the aircraft, monitoring N2 and N1. Really important you monitor the EGT as the engines spool up, looking for any exceedances. So if it starts shooting anything higher than 500 degrees, that's not really normal. The maximum temperature during an engine start is 725, but we'd cut off the fuel before it got anywhere near that. And if you did have something called the EEC, or electric engine control, which is operates all up here, that would automatically shut off fuel for what we call a hot start if the EGT rapidly rose. Anyway, so starter cut out engine number 2, got 2463 stable, start 1. It's good timing for us. We generally try and finish pushback, set parking brake, and then start engine number 1 when we're on the line, so that's pretty realistic. Cool, so N2, N1 increasing oil pressure. Okay, let's get some fuel in now. Okay, so disconnect hand signals, get him away, just continue to monitoring engine number 1. There's a starter cut out, start valve open out. PM would say monitor engine number 1, and we've got 2463, number 1 is stable. So, put the generators on the bus, APU off, and again, as I always say, we won't do anything else with the before taxi flow until we see the bypass pin from the pushback ground.
We'll see you next time, and have a safe flight.
Thanks, buddy. Hasta luego, as they say in Spain. And someone actually said on my last stream, if you wait long enough and patient, you see the bypass pin. So in reality, you usually get 2 people. You get the tug driver and a dispatcher. Tug driver drives off, and the dispatcher has his headset plugged in here. He'd be next to him with the pin. But if I'm patient, I understand he shows it anyway. Oh yeah, I love it. Look at that animation. He seems like he's having a great Saturday morning. Right, anyway, generators on, APU off, start switches continuous. Probe heats on, auto off. And that's all set. Flaps 5 for departure. Flight controls then. Full back, full forward, sorry, full back, full left, centre, full right, centre, and rudders full left, centre, full right, centre. Stab trim set for takeoff, which I didn't set that, I think it's about 5.5 units. Started was idle detent. Blank the lower DU, recall, and then you'd call for the before taxi checklist. Read this one out here after you've completed the flow. So complete flow first, then complete the checklist. So that's it. I recommend printing off a copy of this, and then you can make sure the aircraft is correctly configured. In real life, I'd get the pilot monitoring to read that, but I'll hopefully trust my actions and make sure it's all set. So just before I get taxiing, look at some of the comments. Hi Linley, how are you, my friend? Linley's been following the channel pretty much since it started, watching from New Zealand. I think you've got another New Zealand friend of yours watching too, so glad you could make it. Some interesting other comments as well. I don't understand what any of this means. Anyway, right, we'll get the taxi anyway. So flight data sim, request taxi. Yeah, taxi straight ahead to, better not start moving until we've got the clearance. Taxi straight ahead, left at Charlie to holding point, Alpha 4 for runway at 10. So if we go to airports, this one here, you can see we're going to taxi Charlie out there. This one's a little bit clearer actually, out by Charlie, Bravo Alpha to holding point 10. So, release the parking brake off the brakes now, do a quick config check. There we go, advance the thrust levers all the way, no configuration warning horn. And no more than about 40% for the initial taxi thrust setting. So reasonably light today. We've got about 6.6 tons. It's standard block fuel to La Rochelle. Weather's pretty good down there. And about 175 passengers. It's giving us an empty gross weight, well, with no, a zero fuel weight of about 60 tons. So about 66, 67 tons. So it's reasonably light for takeoff. So here's Charlie on the left. Make a left turn there. A Norwegian Air Shuttle low boarding over there as well, which is pretty cool. Awesome. So we've got the Navigraph plug-in feature, which is pretty cool. We've been chatting to the guys there who allowed Falco to implement this into our his Avi tab feature, which is really, really cool. Just brings further immersion there. It means I don't have to bring the charts up either as well, which I often forget to close on my stream. So you're busy trying to watch me fly and you've got the big chart window open. So now I don't need to open any other tabs. I can just run the simulator. So here we are. Now onto the Bravo taxiway. It's all the way. Bravo merges into Alpha. Then we'll go all the way to the holding point Alpha runway 10 for departure. Let's go for a little cool outside view. So this is stuff I can't do in real life, which I really enjoy seeing. So if you want a copy of my livery, which a lot of people ask me, if you look in the channel description below, you can have a copy of that. It's designed by someone called Michael Fogelman, who's very kindly made this for free. It looks absolutely wicked. Really, really pleased with it. So there we go. That would be the spotter's ultimate place to watch an aircraft pass by. Awesome. Right, so we can now do the before takeoff checklist. Now we're on the taxiway. So config, we've checked. Flaps 5.5 green light for departure. We want this one here. Stab trim, we have 5.5 units for takeoff. Takeoff briefing, we've got the packs in auto, bleeds on, the V-speed set for takeoff 142, 142, 147 set. Oops. Don't forget to turn the turn off and taxi lights on, guys, before you start taxiing. I am doing the job for captain and first officer. Right, continue with the takeoff briefing. It's going to be runway 10 for departure on the Valencia 3 Alpha Sig. Climb straight ahead, 2.8 miles, left turn, 056 heading, intercept 068 radial from Alicante. And then we'll fly to Sumo. Stop levels, flight level 80 for departure, which is set on the MCP. And the takeoff briefing is reviewed. And then we'd push cabin, tell the cabin crew we're ready for departure, and then we'd get on our way. So some people are asking about taxi speed. So maximum taxi speed, this is probably airline specific, but we allow 30 knots on a taxiway in a straight line, 15 knots in the apron, 10 knots for turns more than 90 degrees, rapid exit taxiways, 45 knots up to 60 depending on the design of it. But yeah, we can go up to 30 knots in a straight line. If the taxiway runway is contaminated with snow or slush, the maximum taxi speed we use is 5 knots. Okay, 5 knots everywhere. Right, well, imagine the cabin's secure, so we can move this switch to on. That's what we use in the airline I work for to confirm the condition of the cabin, which is secure for departure. And we'll imagine we've contacted Alicante Tower. We can clear takeoff runway 10. The surface wind right now in Alicante is calm. There's absolutely no wind whatsoever. Interesting design of the road there. It's like one of those oval tracks where you get to go about 200 miles an hour. Interesting. Never mind. So anyway, clear takeoff. This on. Taxi light on. Strobes can go to steady. So I'm doing the drill of the first officer at the moment. LNAV, auto throttle, weather radar on. That'll be the captain's actions, and transponder to TARA. So MCP set, transponder TRA. Strobe lights are on, landing lights on, cleared takeoff runway is 10. There's no AI, but we will always check clear right on the approach, and the runway is clear on the left here as well. So that's it. Before takeoff checklist is complete. So I'm going to just turn the alert box off during the initial phase. I did a stream the other day and a lot of people complaining about the alert box, so I've made it a lot smaller. Anyone that subscribes, thank you so much, but I probably won't acknowledge you during this in the stream, but any tips or donations I'll always acknowledge and thank. So they are not required at all, but obviously always appreciated. So here we are, runway 10. Just get us lined up, close the thrust levers, and we're looking for the runway heading of 100 on the track. That's when we know we're perfectly aligned. So there we go. Right, so let's get going. Stand the thrust levers up to 40%, start the timer. Stabilised when the EGT stops increasing. We've got 40%, there we go, stabilised. Set takeoff thrust. Light forward pressure on the control column. There's no wind today, so we don't need any rudder input for crossing technique. So 90.5 takeoff thrust set, indications normal. Checked, release the forward pressure on the control column. It's nice and easy, no rudder input really, no wind at all. hand off the thrust lever, rotate 2 to 2.5 degrees per second. Here's the deadband, so increase the back pressure up to 15 degrees. There we go, gear up. Now have the gauges at 50 feet, on to the flight directors. So PM calls 400 R8, just confirm the roll mode, which is LNAV. And it's lovely, smooth conditions this morning. So 0 winds, I'm having to make no input pretty much on the control column, just like you would in real life. You'd just be trimming it out now, waiting till 1,000 feet. And there's Alicante off to the left-hand side. Hopefully get some nice views of Ortho 4XP. So 1,000 feet, command A, bug up, accelerate the aircraft. And this is V2 plus 15. At that speed, with an accelerating trend vector, we can initiate flap retraction. So there's flap 1. So aircraft's descending slightly, so it should be doing that. It's just some quick quirk with the ZIBO mod. Obviously, as you're well aware, it's always probably going to be permanently in beta, but it is getting better. So speed check flaps up, and there we go, nicely climbing to the up speeds, continuing up to flight level 80. So we're on the 056 heading at the moment. Insufficient fuel, I doubt it somewhat, using reserve fuel. 1.8 tons. I found that doubtful, but we'll find out what's wrong with that in a second. So here we are on the 056 heading. We're going to intercept the 068 radial from Alicante. So if I bring up VOR here, for some reason it's not letting me select VOR. There we go, you see the radials coming in nicely. So as soon as that comes in there, obviously we're using LNAV, it's going to make a right turn onto 068. There we go, so we're intercepting the radial nicely. Why won't it let me select map? So I need to go between VOR and plan. Interesting. I need to try and get map up somehow in a second. Right, flaps up, low lights, Veena, set standard, climbing to flight level. Passing 3-5 flight level 80 after takeoff checklist. So off, on, these go to off, auto and the ZIBO mods. Air conditioning and pressurization, diff pressure 1.2. Auto, duct pressure's good, temperatures look sensible as well. That is set, and altimeters, we've got standard set, passing 4-2 flight level 80, and the after takeoff checklist is complete. Just look at the chat about Coco, I just watch the language, guys. I will boot you if you start using derogatory terminology. I'm going to get a moderator on later as well, so please keep it clean. Right, so after takeoff checklist is complete, we'll just continue climb to flight level 80. Awesome. So there we go, very low workload now as we continue to climb away. There we go. So I just got rid of someone from the chat who seems to be enjoying himself rather too much. Right, so approaching flight level 80, start selecting vertical speed, watching your rate of climb there. And here we are approaching flight level 80. Alicante Tower would hand you over to Valencia radar, and for any of you who are line pilots, you'll be very familiar with the Alicante departure. They always seem to climb you to flight level 240 next off the easterly runway, so we'll set that just like you do in real life. There's no traffic affecting us, so that's set, flight level 20 checked, VNAV, and we can delete the out restriction at Valencia, which was the initial stop level, so give out into vent to push, there we go, it's gone, we can ensure VNAV's engaged. And now if we go to here, check the chart, sorry. On the SID, we are now intercepting the radial inbound to Valencia. So this is the 352 QDM, so the reciprocal of that would be 172. So on the 172 radial to Valencia. And you can see for raw data, we've got 352 for the inbound VOR. If we select this, because I've got it tuned down there, Valencia VOR there, you'll see that we're perfectly tracking the VOR, so the purple magenta lines in there, so we always back it up raw data just in case we have any problems with the FMS. We can just simply select VOR-lock and engage, and then continue the flights on our way all the way down to Valencia that way. So that's it. Oh, unbelievable. Some of the kids are on today, aren't they? Jesus. Right. So, getting rid of some of the junk here on chat. Awesome. So, continues to flight level 100. We can do the pre-cruise checks in a second. Here's Ortho 4X Speed looking absolutely spectacular. It's the first time I've actually managed to stream during daylight hours so you can enjoy the scenery. So, PM we've got all altimeters 102 flight level 240 pre-cruise checks. So, fuel we have 4 pumps, balance 5.8. We're gonna, yeah, we got 3.3 again. So I don't know why it said 1.8 earlier. It's probably a little glitch in the mod. All the forward-facing lights can come off. APU's off. Pressurization 2.8, and that is all looking like it's set. We can release the cabin crew, which I forgot to do, and we'll release the passengers as well. Recall, and now the pre-cruise check is complete. It's accelerating to the Econ climb speed, which is about 271 knots or so. Alright, and we'll turn the alert box back on again now. We are above 10,000 feet. So, looking at the chat, let's see what people are saying. Joshua, I noticed that you pulled up a checklist that was on the top of the dashboard. Where can I get that? Well, it comes with the latest version of ZIBO mod. So this checklist here is loosely based on the airlines I work for. I helped ZIBO write it. It's a bit generic as well from Boeing, but it works perfectly well. And it's for this phase of flight. You don't need to download anything extra, just download the latest version of ZIBO mod to get a copy of this checklist. And it's the one we use every day. You also have an electronic checklist on here too, but I don't use it because it's the exact checklist we use in real life. It's located on the top of the glare shield there. Dangerous Dan, so are these flights in real time? Yeah, live time, live weather. So currently it's 7:58 Zulu. So the time in Spain, Alicante right now, is 9:58 because it's +2 UTC in the summer. And the time in the UK is 8:58, which is +1 UTC. So this time here, Zulu, GMT, UTC, it's all the same name. It's the time standardised in aviation, so every airline would use this no matter where they are in the world. That way everyone's on the same flight time plan, you know, ATC, the pilots, the aircraft, the company, the airline schedules, all works off the same thing. So live weather, it's really, really nice out there today in Alicante. It'd be just like this if any aircraft was taking off now. This is exactly what they'd be seeing if they're on the Valencia 3 Alpha. This is all Ortho 4X Speed looking jolly darn good, one would say. Awesome. Jet pilot, what aircraft do you fly in real life? This very aircraft, 737-800, about 4,000 hours now on here. I've been flying it for 6.5 years. I mean, I've been simming, or using Microsoft Flight Simulator initially. Started that when I was about 12, 13 years old, so I'm talking, yeah, how many years ago now? 15 years ago? So nearly 30 years old. So yeah, I've been using this for some time. Started the channel a couple of years ago to kind of share some of the knowledge onto flight sim. Started using it again because I became a type rating instructor, so I teach new cadets for the airline I work for how to fly the aircraft on a type rating as well. Hi Richard, you're my good friend, coming in with a 100 Swedish krona. Thank you so much for the tip. Lunch is on me and La Rochelle. Thank you very much, my friends. Richard's been following me for a very long time. He's actually the chap who helped me install all of Ortho 4XP, so I get a lot of help from the community, bringing up my channel up to speed since I started, helping with a lot of sim stuff, and I provide some feedback on how to fly this airplane just as we would in real life. So thank you very much for that, Richard. Good man. So, 38 miles from Valencia, still on the SIDS. There's the tip coming in. Oh, there's some clouds coming in. Guessing the weather updated. So for anyone that uses X-Plane 11, I have been using default weather, which I pretty much still am, and I've got a plugin called XP NOAA Weather, which is a lot better at updating the weather more frequently. The only problem is every time it updates the weather every 10 minutes, you get all these clouds rebuild itself. So apparently there's some clouds north of Alicante near Valencia, which I find doubtful, but we'll let it do its job anyway. The Irish Ghost 88, how many gigabytes of Ortho 4XP do you have? It's about 6 terabytes of Ortho 4XP. It's quite a significant amount. So I've got an external SATA hard drive. The whole of Europe is covered in base level 17. Took the best part of 2.5–3 weeks to download continuously. Awesome. So lower work phase now. Every 10,000 feet on the climb, just have a quick check of the air conditioning and pressurization panel. Differential pressure. This is the difference between the pressure inside and outside the aircraft. This steadily increases. Maximum's 9.1. Generally, the high cruise levels it sits around 8.2 or so. That's the altitude of the cabin, so about 5,000 feet. If they were to maintain an altitude of sea level, you need more differential pressure, but typically between 6 to 10,000 feet on the 737. New aircraft like the 78, A350, they're all made of carbon fibre and composite material, so they can give a better differential pressure and a lower cabin altitude, so it gives you a better experience as a passenger and flight crew. All the rest is set. Check that the duct pressure is pretty high. It wouldn't be quite as high as that in real life, but make sure you got it. Check the temperature in the cabin. Right, so approaching 240, we'd now be with Barcelona radar, so we'd check in. So something like flight date to St. Buenos Dias on the Valencia 3 Alpha, passing 239, flight level 3. Flight level 240, no, yeah, flight sim, you cleared flight level 360, which is the final cruise level today. Perfect, so 360 set, and then we check it 3 times on the overhead panel, on the MCP, and then the FMC here. And then we make sure we're monitoring 1 to 1.5, which is the emergency distress frequency. I can't actually select the VHF volume button on here. So yeah, that's so we can hear out any emergency beacons going off, anyone that's under distress. Also, if we forget to check in, AC can contact us on 1 to 1.5, and if we don't say anything for about an hour or so, we'll eventually get intercepted, which is not something you want on your CV as an airline pilot. No, I've never been intercepted, if anyone wants to ask that question. Not yet, and I wish to keep it that way. Good. So, a bit cloudy now, but we're approaching Valencia. That's where we actually started our last live stream and went from Valencia to Alicante. Flight time of half an hour. And we've already been flying for almost 15 minutes by the time we get overhead the city, with the Valencia VOR tuned. And you can see where the SID terminates there as well. And there is some nice scenery. And we'll be going over the Pyrenees later as well, which is always a fantastic view. 2 really nice, spectacular mountainous areas in Europe. Pyrenees is one, the Alps is obviously the other. So if you go to Avi tab and map, you'll see our routing. Talk about it very briefly. Going to make a left turn slightly soon, going kind of northeast direction to the west of Barcelona. Here's the Pyrenees, which we're going to cross just to the west of Andorra, and then we're going to head off towards Bordeaux, and then we follow the river. I can't remember the name of this river, I should know this. Basically following that river in all the way to La Rochelle, which is just here. And as I said, anyone who started the stream, if you just checked in, we are going to be probably flying the RNAV approach for 27, circle to land runway 09, because it looks like an easterly wind. But we'll talk about that later on in the cruise. We'll go through the full setup for La Rochelle, as if I would be doing if I was flying in there right now, live today. So Simon SMB, Reed, Chris J, good morning everyone, good morning to me as well. Hope you're all well. Sorry for those who are just about to go to bed over in the States, Canada. Started to stream at this time. It's the only time I could stream was this morning, and I'm probably not going to be able to do anything for the next couple of weeks afterwards. But I'm busy kind of schedule. But I am off in November. It's actually my month off, so I might be doing, you know, maybe a stream a week if we're lucky. But I have got lots of plans with my family and stuff. So when I do get a bit more spare time, I should have more time. We could do some more streaming, and this will be a more regular current thing. It's a lot easier to do this than planning and editing a full tutorial, and it's a lot more beneficial because you can ask me live time what's going on. Why Hock? What was the shortest flight you ever had? I once positioned an aircraft from Manchester to Birmingham in the UK, and the flight time I think we actually recorded was 18 minutes. 18 minutes on the 737, empty aircraft. Didn't even get up to above 10,000 feet on that one. So yeah, we do some short sectors. Shortest scheduled flight, I'm not going to say without probably give away who I work for, but thank you very much for all the respect regarding asking who I work for and stuff. Probably obvious, probably isn't, but it is for a UK operator. That's all I'm going to say. Just returning to my roots flight simming, just sharing some of the stuff we do every day. So passing flight level 300, angle of bank to 10 degrees. Again, just checking the pressurization panel. 737 NG is a very reliable aircraft, but it is important you still check all these pressurization. Check the pressurization panel frequently, especially during climb and descent. Anything unusual, such as the diff pressure dropping, cabin altitude increasing, must be immediately corrected and controlled. We can pressurize the aircraft manually by moving this to manual and configuring the open and close switch manually there as well. We've got a donation coming in. Stateless 101, $5.78. Thank you. You're most welcome for that. The stream. That's a very kind donation. As I said, everything that's tipped and donated goes directly into the channel. That's what bought the scenery in Alicante. So that's really appreciated. Thank you very much for the tip there. Wipeock, a better empty aircraft is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Actually, if you watch my last live stream, you'll see that when we flew from Valencia to Alicante, it was based on an empty aircraft. So yeah, you can, when you get full climb for us to engage you, rates of climb in excess of 5,000–6,000 feet, but it's completely normal. I positioned an aircraft once, it was empty, and we went full 22k for takeoff and then full climb, and we got up to 41,000 feet in 10 minutes on an empty 737. So it is yeah, there's a lot of excellent performance in this aircraft. It has to be in case the engine fails. Awesome. So approaching the final cruise level, 360 shortly. Matching the heading here. Always match the heading, guys. So if ATC go, flight date to sim, maintain present heading, you can just simply push heading select. And when you're in the cruise level like this, if you go on a heading, ATC can lower the separation, the spacing down, so get you a bit closer to aircraft, which is sometimes needed when the airspace is very congested. You know, nothing dangerous, because you know, we don't want a TCAS TA or RA, but yeah, if they can sometimes get you to get in the heading, and they can get crossing traffic to get a bit closer to you and stuff. If you're routing direct to a waypoint, they have to keep the spacing to a set amount. I should know the distance off the top of my head, maybe 5 miles, but I'd have to look up in Panzops, all the legal stuff. So here we go. Approaching cruise level, we've got Castellón here on the left. I'm not sure what this airport is here to the right. We've got Reyes, Zaragoza, and if we zoom a bit storm, we've got Ibiza here, Palma de Mallorca, Mahon, and Barcelona will be just off here to the right later on and stuff. So yeah, my geography of Europe's reasonably good. Sometimes if I go far east towards Poland, Ukraine, I have to look at the map again just to make sure I know what countries I'm flying over. But do a lot of UK to Spain, French routes on this. I've flown this routing in particular. I'm probably not exaggerating when I say over 500 times. So I'm pretty clued up on this route here. Right, so the ZIBO mod, we're now flight level 360. We have a fixed target speed at the moment because we need to find out the data regarding all the different cruise levels, so it kind of defaults to 781 knots. But based on our cost index today, which is 30, if we look at the operational flight plan under it's here, you'll see that in the cruise it's around 7.8 anyway. So you can see here just generically 7.9, so 7.8 is fine for us. We'll do a fuel check as well overhead the next waypoint, which is, well, we'll do it at Tatos, look, which is in 1 minute. So just like we do in real life, let's find Tatos on the flight plan. There we go, Tatos. Fuel, we need 4.6 tons on board. We should have burned 1.9, so we've got 4.7. Very good. Used, there you go, about 2 tons. So probably burned about extra 50, 100 kilos, but the fuel is exactly on target. And there we go, flight level 360. And here we go. Here's Northeast Spain, rugged terrain. Oops, here comes the weather uploading again, so that's probably why the clouds are rebuilding. That happens about every 10 minutes or so with this XP weather. I installed this yesterday, but it just makes sure that you actually have proper live weather, and it's updated every 10 minutes. The default X-Plane 11 weather, I realise, thanks to most of you guys telling me, it can be a bit slow to update to live weather, and I flew into Alicante, the weather's kind of 2 hours out of date, so this ensures the weather is up to date. Jet pilot, how old are you? I'm going to tell you exactly. Late 20s. Late 20s. 30 years old is coming up far too quickly. My youth is escaping me. Awesome. So having a look at some of the other comments. Sam the Ryanair man, would you say it is more common for zero fuel weight to be over 69 or under? Thanks. Well, zero fuel weight is based on how many passengers you've got. So you've got an empty aircraft, zero fuel weight about 46 tons. It's completely full, maybe about 63, 64. The maximum zero fuel weight is about 65.5 tons. So no more than that. But you'd have to have a lot of we had to have full load of passengers and cargo to get anywhere near that. Harry Allen, hi, Flight Sim, just wondering, if you calculate a holdover time during icing, would you no longer consider the holdover time if it stops snowing? So yeah, holdover time, Harry, is based on whatever de-icing fluid you use. So if you're using Type 2 or Type 4, check your tables, and then if conditions change, you have to actually invalidate the holdover time, but that's usually if it gets worse, so precipitation of snow. If it gets better, that's a good question. I'd probably stick with the original holdover time as a conservative figure, but don't please quote me. Check your, if you are a pilot, check your official documentation. But that's what I'd do. I'd base it off the actual holdover time. But if it's completely clear, holdover times are generally well in excess of 8-9 hours. It's only if you've got precipitation like snow and ice, rain, where you have the lower holdover times. But yeah, if you are a pilot, please check your approved material only. Look at all the comments about your age. Poor bastard, I'm closing on a 40. 32, 44, 29. Valerio, you see the youth in my eyes. Yes, thank you very much. I do in a way still feel a bit young. It's gone all very quickly, especially, you know, it felt like yesterday when I joined my first airline, and I've been flying this 737 for nearly 8 years now, and it really genuinely feels like yesterday. And I train the cadets now, and I keep telling them, you'll be training the next generation like I was. It feels like, I feel like I'm in your shoes still. So that's it. Harry, A330FO, got the question in the sim the other day. What did you say? Did you say the same as me? That's what I'd say. That's quite a tricky one. I'd go conservative and say stick with the original holdover times. I wouldn't ask a question like that. That's tough. What a tough question on your check. Awesome. So continuing the cruise along. Errol, are you married? That's a very personal question. I'm not, but I've been with my partner for some time. I better not say what I think, because she might be listening, or she should be asleep. Anyway, who's just come in for the donation? Thank you so much for that. It's not updating on my thing here. Oh, here we go. Momix 2000 with 50 PLN. I really don't know what the currency that is. Best channel ever, but thank you so much for the tip of donation. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So, some cloud again, so the weather keeps rebuilding itself, which is a bit of a shame because it doesn't look ideal, but so be it. Here's Castahon. Not sure if you'd see it on the... well, it's too cloudy now, can't see it. I really doubt it's cloudy like this in the north of Spain at the moment. If anyone is in the north of Spain, you can confirm it, but it's certainly not doubtful, seeing it says on it's completely cav okay in Alicante. Aaron, we all know how TREs are like. I did just the same as you. Yep, yeah, I would have said the same thing. Well, I'm a TRI, so I don't do any examining, just the recurrency sim training and type ratings and stuff. So I should know that. It's Polish currency, I should know. So thank you very much for the Polish currency. Alright, so just see what we are. It's 8:16 Zulu, so live time. 9:16 in the UK, 10:16 in Spain. And if we go to the cruise, you see our top ascent's going to be at 8:47, 265 miles away. So we'll probably start setting up in about, well, probably 15-20 minutes before top ascent, so around 27 half past. So another 15 minutes or so. We'll just continue to look at any questions and have a general chit chat as you wish. So yeah, I don't know why it's so cloudy. I really can't wait. I think Active Sky's coming out to Expo 11. I had that on FSX Steam, which I've completely stopped using now. But that was actually seemed like quite a powerful weather engine tool that was actually simulating downdrafts and wind shear quite well. So if that comes to Expo 11, which from what I understand it is, from feedback from some guys, that would be certainly a good investment. I think I'll get it. Awesome. Andy Billum, cleared my schedule to watch this, my first ever live stream. Hugely informative. I'm learning more with every video. Well done. These are the best streams and tutorials I have watched. Why, thank you. I feel like I'm blushing, but no, it's nothing special. I mean, I'm just telling you what I train to do. It's not anyone who's into simming, and trust me, I fly with other people, captains included, and cadet students who do use sims, flight sim. You know, you're not on your own situation. I mean, I'm a classic example. I remember when I was about 13, 14 years old at the weekend, you know, getting up as early as I could, like 5 o'clock in the morning, go on the sim. My parents were like, no, it's bad for your eyes, don't get up so early. So no, I really enjoy flight simming, and then I became a pilot, and now I've come back to the roots. But I don't sim so much for entertainment. I purely sim now to provide the feedback for tutorials and live streams and stuff now. It does, believe it or not, and it does, I sometimes like to step away from the flight deck. You know, I do enjoy my days off not doing any flying, which is, I know it sounds awful, and especially you guys obviously want to be in this situation, but yeah, it's like everything in life, you want to get a break from it. But I do love it, and I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am. AHK747, what are the numbers for on the yoke? So, control column here, these numbers, there's no reason whatsoever. I mean, I don't know if you can fiddle. Oh crap, no, whoops. Yeah, don't do that. Right, guys, you ever touch the control column, it disconnects the autopilot, which causes the airplane to move. I was trying to flick this and I accidentally clicked the mouse, which I thought it was grabbing the control column. How embarrassing. We won't tell ATC about that, but just watch the mod, make sure it levels off at 360. So these numbers, they mean absolutely nothing. You can set whatever you wish. At the moment they're defaulted to 7378, so 738. What I do, if we have any numbers in our call sign, I'll punch them in there. So if ATC call you, you know, if we're doing 2, 4, 6 sectors a day, it's important to know what your call sign is. So I put any numeric information there. Some people put the VREF approach speed in there. Yeah, I personally don't because it's on the FMC. But yeah, there's no real practical position there. Steve Jenkinson, any chance you could do a more basic start from scratch tutorial, maybe just enough to get you in the air? Such a good channel, my 6-year-old son loves it and wants to sim together. Oh, that's really nice to hear, but probably not. I mean, I think I did toy with the idea of doing some basic tutorials, even light aircraft and stuff, but at the moment, at most, I think from basic figure, because I did ask on the community tab a while back, a lot of you just want me to fly them 737 and stuff, but you know, I'll do whatever once if we get certain requests to do certain things. You know what, I think what I'd like to do, if it ever comes out, is do a Concorde flight from London to New York, old school, you know, take it up for a spin. But I used to love the Concorde in FSX, but I don't think there's any chance of that coming out on Expo 11. Certainly it'll be quite hard to simulate, yeah, because obviously it's very, very realistic how it calculates airflow. So there's a lot of effects caused by Mach. You know, if you go above Mach 1, aerodynamic rules change and stuff. To program that to work correctly must be pretty difficult, but yeah, maybe, we'll see. I digress quite a bit there, so maybe I might do some basic stuff. I'll see what the community wants, but it'll always be primarily revolved around the 737. No Airbus tutorials either, because I don't know how to fly that aeroplane. It's difficult, I think. Cool. So, Simon SMB, what would happen if you engage reverse thrust in mid-air? Well, number one, don't. But number two, you can't. So, whenever the thrust levers are above idle, which they are now, it locks the thrust lever deployment, so you can't actually manually select it unless the thrust is idle. Even then, in the air, there's an interlock system which prevents it from opening. Now, there could be a fault where it does open and deploy. We have a QRH checklist for reverse thrust. We essentially shut the engine down if it does accidentally deploy, but it's extremely, extremely unlikely. I've never read a documented case of a reverser deploying in flight. There's too many safeguards in place, so yeah, it is genuinely probably not going to happen unless you have some sort of massive technical problem or issue, but it'll be multiple issues and multiple problems. Right, so here we are over Caspi, still over Spain. Aneto is the FIR boundary in between Spain and France, so you get transferred to Bordeaux radar at Aneto from Barcelona radar. So we'd still be talking to Spanish ATC. You have Reyes here. This is Barcelona on the right. Again, it's still pretty cloudy. I'm guessing Ortho 4XP is loading in because I'm still getting a bit of drop in frame rates there. If anyone knows how to fix this as well, that's really annoying. These flickering clouds as well. I think that's just the graphics card, but I think I've got a pretty beefy graphics card, so I'm not sure what it will do. Awesome. Right. Let's see some of the other questions. Is it Explain 11? Yes, this is Explain 11. If you want to know what add-ons I'm using, what plugins, you can find them all in the channel description below. Siegfried, is it normal that the 737 that the engines increased to almost 100% during the climb? Yeah, absolutely normal. So, you know, a lot of people don't realise who are new to flying, new to aviation. I'll go through some kind of basic principles here. So it says here we're doing 258 knots. Now this is indicated airspeed. This is the, you know, this is measured for the amount of air molecules going through the pitot tube. Now as we climb, the air becomes less dense, there's less air molecules, so your actual speed through the air is increasing if your indicated airspeed stays the same. So if you see here, you've got true airspeed, that's the airspeed through the air, you know, taking into account the density altitude. So because there's less air molecules going through the pitot tube, we're doing 260 knots, true airspeed is about 450 due to the lower air density. Now ground speed, this is, as you said, the speed over the ground, and this is basically, you take your true airspeed, any wind vector. Alright, so you can see we've got a 28 knot headwind pretty much on the head, but if we actually go to progress page 2 in the FMC, you can see our headwind component is about 26. Well, if you take the difference between the two of that, it should be approximately your ground speed there. So ground speed, that's the actual speed as we move over the ground GPS. So yeah, going back to your question regarding the engines, because there's less air going through the engines, you need a higher thrust setting. Now if you set 85% N1 on the ground, you'd be burning maybe 10 tons of fuel an hour. Up here we're only burning 2.2 because there's a lot less air and fuel needed to make the engines go. So the higher you go up, the more efficient a jet engine is with regarding the mixture of fuel and air. So yeah, during the climb, no problem getting 99%. The engines will be fine. If we're to have an engine failure, I don't know if it's accurately programmed here, but you've got max continuous thrust. That's pretty low. It shouldn't be as low as that. It should be around 99, but I don't think it's accurately modelled. And this is the maximum sustainable thrust setting, which we'd set on the operative engine in the event of an engine failure. So that's kind of like a crash course on all the different speeds and engine thrust settings. But a lot more information is available online. That's kind of like, I haven't done ATPL theory for 8 years, so I've given you a very rough and ready explanation. 10 years ago I could have given you a much more academic answer than the one I just gave you. I've given you a typical pilot's answer for the reason there. So I hope that all makes sense. Actually, I'm just going to, I understand this weather. I mean, I just want to do a weather check. Let's have a look at Reyes, which is here, Lima Echo Romeo Sierra, because I can't believe it's this cloudy here. ACARS, ATIS request, Lima Echo Romeo Sierra set. Just want to see what the weather is here. Because I think I'm using default weather, guys, but using this XP NOAA weather, which it reads METARs and then updates the weather accordingly. I don't know why it's so cloudy. I mean, oh, actually, I take it back. So Reyes just here, yeah, a few scattered clouds, updated at 800 Zulu, so 25 minutes ago. I'm flipping wrong, look, scattered, broken clouds, so yeah, maybe it is pretty much like this north of Barcelona. Usually it's pretty clear in the mornings there, but not so this morning, so I stand corrected. Alright. Some of the other questions coming in there. Danny Rubik, could you explain why using flexible thrust or reduced thrust, I think we call it the Boeing, flexi is always Airbus chat. Could you explain why the takeoff will burn more fuel than taking off without it? Yeah, so this is a common misconception. With a lower thrust setting, you'd think that you'd actually burn less fuel. That's actually not the case. The lower the thrust setting, the higher your fuel burn. But if you actually take the cost into account, taking engine wear, by using a lower thrust setting, the engine parts last longer, don't need to be replaced. So it is more cost effective for an airline. Now, why does it use less fuel? Well, it's because we have a longer period climbing. If we have a lower thrust setting, we're going to spend more time climbing, and the more time you spend climbing, it's the higher you're going to have, longer time you're going to have a higher thrust setting, and that's why you'd burn more fuel. So when we climb up, as soon as we're airborne, we usually select max climb thrust, because we're going to get up to our cruise level quicker, burn more fuel on the short term, but because we get to our cruise level quicker, our fuel flow here is a lot better. So yeah, a higher thrust setting is actually more fuel efficient. But then you've got other problems with noise abatement as well. So we generally do a lower thrust setting for noise abatement, and because on the whole ground scheme of things, it is lower costs on the whole for the airline operator, because less parts need to be replaced. So I hope that answer makes sense to you. Alright, just going to have a quick drink, guys. I'm just going to get a quick drink bite to eat, but I'll be back in a couple of minutes or so, and then we'll carry on with the questions. Then we'll get set up back into La Rochelle. Okay, thank you very much for that, guys. Just it's good to have a little refresh when you're doing these sort of things, continuously talking, flying an aeroplane, especially when it gets busier. I've just come back to see that Valerio Trigari's donated £10 for Super Chat, so thank you so much for the donation. All tips like this are greatly appreciated and go back into the sim to improve your experience, so thank you so much for that. Cool, so here we are over the Pyrenees, coming over the terrain here, and you can see here looking rather spectacular. It's a great shame about the clouds. One day we'll get a clear sky. We can actually enjoy Ortho 4 XP because it looks absolutely awesome. Really can't believe all that stuff is free and available there. Right, so we should probably start thinking about the setup at some point. I'm going to get rid of this just so I don't knock it again to disconnect the autopilot, which would be a terrific shame. And we'll start thinking about the setup. So here's Aneto, we're talking to the French quite soon. There's Arjan VOR, and then we'll continue the flight. So what we'll do for the setup, we'll bring the iPad over here just above the FMC, because we'll be primarily looking at this during the setup. So first thing we need to think about is the descent page. So we'll leave 240 below 100, and let's just get the latest weather from La Rochelle and see if we're going to be circling or not. I think we will be. So if we go ACARS, latest request again, and I think it's Lima Foxtrot Bravo Hotel. We go send. Awesome. So ATIS. So it is from 800 Zulu Auto 170 at 12. So it is ever so slightly favouring runway 09, so we'll circle, and we'll also explain why we'll also circle on 09 to do with the length of the runway for that runway 2. Clear skies 20 degrees 1015 for the QNH, so we can preset the QNH now in preparation for that. We need to go to the flight plan, so charts, we need to get to the descent page. Here we go, we need to get all the wind information in, so here's the descent winds, push this into the FMC. Hopefully get this into a position so you can all see it. Let me know if you can't, guys, but this looks good there. So forecast 310. Oops. Zoom in for this bit, it's easier to type. 200 and 100. Forecast winds we have 236 and 22. 200 it's 239 at 28, and 100 is 214 at 21. This will just give VNAV the best forecast descent information. Execute that. QNH is 1015. Execute, and ISO deviation, well the temperature was at 20 degrees I think we said. I've got the aero weather app here, but yeah, 20 degrees, so that's +5 for the ISO, but we need to take the current temperature into account. Here it's -2, so on an average it's going to be about +2 on the ISO, so we'll use that. Again, it's not really required, just makes VNAV a little bit more accurate there. You can put a slash in the real aircraft. Anyway, there's the descent information. Now, fixed rings. We're going to be approaching runway 27, but then we are going to turn around, and then we're going to make a circling approach on runway 09. So we're going to put this here for runway 27. 10-mile ring for flap 1, and then a 4-mile ring for gear down flap 15, as it is VMC there, okay. And what we're going to do is select runway 09 as well. And this is the landing runway. I'm going to circle onto this one. And what we need to do is put a 4.2-mile ring in. Now, what this means is 4.2 is something called the PANS Ops, Obstacle Clearance Protection Area, in a nutshell. I think it's got a different name to that. But this basically means during the circling manoeuvre, so long as we are within 4.2 miles of the landing runway and above the minimums on the MDA for the approach, we are free of all obstacles. So that's what we're going to do. This is just an additional safety feature. Now we'll discuss this next point coming in later, but what we do is put a 003 radial in. Now this is the beam radial point when we're downwind, at which we're going to start timing. If you've seen my circling approach tutorial, I think I used the same point there. I'll explain and show you what this means later, but you can, when the stream is finished, you can ask any questions about anything I've done here, and I'll explain a little bit more in detail. I'm going to basically leave it as it is, just setting up as I would do in real life. So that's the fixed rings in. Now let's get the star information up. So we're on home, Aviation, airports, close all these now as we're no longer in Alicante. And delete La Rochelle, Lima Foxtrot Bravo Hotel. There's the airfield information. I found that this generally is out of date. It's a bit slow to update, so I don't use this one anymore. Just use this NOAA plugin, which get and read a real meta. Right, so the arrival we're going to fly is the Maran 4 Delta, which we'll discuss later, and then we're going to fly RNAV 27 and then circle to land 09, and we'll just bring up the airport parking charts as well. So, let's discuss the star first. So we're going to come over at Maran, that's the start of the arrival. So if we go to plan, and step through this, get all the way to Maran. Now we need to do some editing here. So you can see after Maran, the star continues all the way to 4 mile final. Now we don't want to do that, we want to brake right and go towards Gags. So when you select this, just like in real life, you have to tidy it up. So after Maran, I'm going to route initially to Delta 177 November, which is this waypoint here, 13.5 miles from Romeo Lima, and then we're going to go towards Gags. And so all I need to do is put that over Romeo Lima, which is going to build the arc, execute, and there we go. So that's looking a lot more realistic. Now, we're not going to fly this star in completion because there is a very low stop altitude at or below at 2,500 feet. Now this is for military airspace. In reality, if it was military airspace was open, you level off at 2,500 feet and drag it all the way in from that altitude. Now what Bordeaux radar would do, because there's no radar at the tower frequency here, they'd actually probably send you after Maran direct to Gags, which is the initial approach fix, if the military airspace was closed and you could descend, you know, with a continuous descent. So we're going to do that. It's exactly what you'd probably do in real life. And then after Gags, that's the initial approach fix for the RNAV approach. So here's the RNAV approach. You can see there's Gags, and then from there we're going to go Bravo Hotel 505. Oh, actually, that's on the missed approach. Gags direct to Gurko. Then after Gurko, left turn is the final approach fix, Bravo Hotel 508, and then we descend on the virtual glide path. So we'll make sure that's in the FMC. Gags, there's Gurko, and you can see at Gurko it says 2,500, but I don't want to be level at 2,500 feet there, so I'm going to put at or above to make sure we have a continuous descent. So all the speed restrictions are in. Then after Gurko, there's the final approach fix, Bravo Hotel 508, which is just here. What's the distance there from final? It's about 7 miles. There we descend down the virtual glide path, 3.2 miles, 3.2 degrees, sorry. You can see here, we need to make sure that's in the FLC, so you can see, look, 3.2 degrees. Down to the runway. Now, there is an ILS on runway 27. I will have it tuned, but it's imperative that you do not arm approach, because we're circling. If you arm approach, you cannot turn it off unless you disconnect, recycle flight radius, or push toga. So we're going to use LNAV and VNAV for the approach. You will have the glide slope there, but we're going to ignore it, just base it on the VNAV profile. Now, as we're circling, we need to check what the circling minima is. So if we go down here, circle to land, prohibited to the south of the runway, so that means we have to turn right to circle. And we're Category C aircraft, and we do have local air traffic service, so we can use the minimum here for Category C. 770 RVR required is 2,400 metres. Now we're circling minima. This is an SOP of ours. We round it up to the nearest 100 feet, so 770 is 800. We wouldn't actually set or add 40 like we usually do. We just round this up to the nearest 100 feet. So we'll set 800 feet. I hope you're all still with me, guys. If you have any questions, post-stream, leave it and I can go into more detail, explain what I'm doing. So we'll set 800 feet here. There we go. And this is what's going to happen. We're going to continue descent on the profile, level off at 800 feet. We're going to level off at 800 feet. When once we're at 800 feet, we're going to make a left turn. Alright, what I should have done is drawn a diagram to show you. But we're going to make a left turn here. Alright, 45 degrees off the runway heading. Now the runway heading is 273. So if you add 45 degrees, we're going to turn right onto a track of 318. Alright, now after we're on a track of 318, we'll be at 20 seconds on in still wind conditions. We have to take any wind into account, but we'll do that as we fly the approach. We're then going to turn downwind, fly 273 track again, downwind at 800 feet. When we're abeam the runway, which will be on the 003 radial, so that's why I put that 003 radial on runway 09. You'll see that if I step through it here. See, oops, if I go here. There you go, you see that radial here. When we're abeam that point there, we're going to start timing again. We're going to start timing, and our timing we work out based on our height above the ground. Now if you remember, we're circling at 800 feet, we're not at 770, so we times your height above the ground. So this is your height above the ground, 696 based on 770. Now we're at 800 feet, so we need to add 30 feet. Alright, so 770 plus 30 is 800. We need to add 30 feet to this figure, so 696 plus 30 equals 726. Now if you get a calculator out and put 726 times by 3, it comes to 21.78 seconds. Now we're not Chuck Yeager here, alright, let's call 21.78 seconds 22 seconds. So when we're abeam the runway, we start the timing for 22 seconds, and then once the timing's up, we'll turn final, configure the landing flap as well, flap 40 today because it's a very short runway, and then hopefully, if all goes well, we'll land on runway 09. So I hope that all makes sense with you, but that's what we're going to essentially fly today. Right, last thing we need to do is look at the performance. Now, like when we did our flight into, was it Jersey or Guernsey, whatever it was, the really short runway, the theme continues into La Rochelle. It's a very short runway. The length of it is 2,255, but you have to take into account it has quite significant displaced thresholds. Now the reason we're not landing on 27 is because look how long this displaced threshold is. You can't land on this section of the runway. So 2255 is the length of the runway, but if you look on for runway 27, here, runway 27, here's the lighting information. The landing beyond the glide slope is just 1,547 metres. Alright, so it's very, very, very short. So that's why we're circling onto runway 09. Number one, the wind favours it. Number two, it has a much smaller displaced threshold, and it's just 1,940 metres stopping distance there. So it is significantly shorter than landing on runway 09. It's actually the preferred runway in La Rochelle. So generally when you fly into this airport, ATC say, even in calm winds, yeah, please, you know, runway in use is approach 27, circle to land 09. I think that's more down to sound, to noise abatement there. So I hope you're still with me, guys. I'm kind of explaining this as I would to a cadet on the type rating. There's a lot of information for you. Once you see it, it becomes a little bit more understandable, but you can replay this post-stream as many times as you like. Ask questions in the comment section afterwards, and I'll get back to you. So, landing performance-wise, we have 3.5 on board, arriving in La Rochelle with 2.8. So we're going to burn what I think that's 700 kilos of fuel. All right, 700 kilos. So we go now to init ref, subtract 700 from this figure, which is going to be 62.7. And that's the figure we'd use on the Boeing OPT app. Now it's definitely flat 40, and it's definitely minimum auto brake 3, and that's actually company specific procedure. So flat 40, auto brake 3. We'll use second detent reverse and brake cooling, but the reverse thrust in the mod at the moment is quite powerful. Reverse thrust makes no impact really with auto brake on a dry runway on stopping distance. It just makes the brake cooling a little better. So that's the whole lot's completed. Now taxiing's a bit of a threat here. We're going to land on 09. We have to go to the end. 180 degree on the runway, in via Alpha, and it's a very tight apron. We're going to park on stand 4, so we have to be very careful of everything there. So that's it. That's the briefing. Very detailed and complex, I know, but once you see it actioned, I hope it makes a little bit more sense. This is essentially what we do if we're ever flying a circling approach. So QNH is set, so we'll use LNAV and VNAV for the approach. We're going to go gear down flat 15 at 4 miles. We'll select the landing flap turning final. Actions when visual, we'll fly the approach. If not visual, we'll fly the missed approach, which is climb straight ahead to 2,500 feet, and then some other waypoints we'll fly to in the FMC. So yeah, that's the briefing complete. Alright. Very detailed, I know, but intensive as well. Right, so overhead Arjan in France, making a left turn northwest, heading on towards Bordeaux, and the top of descent is about 53 miles away, so about 7 minutes. Right, looking at the comments, for now everything is very clear. Not sure if that's sarcasm or not, but Jeff, all a bit too much for me. Hungover, need to drink coffee. Yeah, me too. Well, I'm not hungover, but I could feel like a coffee at the moment because I did get to bed quite late. wouldn't surprise you to know that pilots play video games too. So I was actually playing PUBG last night on the Xbox. Bet that shocks a lot of you, doesn't it? Nearly a captain. I play on the Xbox still. PUBG's awesome though, although not very good on Xbox. Richard Broad, the briefing was a mouthful. It was, yeah, it was. I hope it sort of made a bit of sense. Good question by Stuart Walsh. What happens if you lose VMC while circling? Yeah, so if you lose sight of the runway at any point, get yourself into visibility, you've got to go around, missed approach. And your missed approach is based on your position on the circles, and you fly the missed approach based on the approach you flew, so you'd have to make a heading turn towards the missed approach whilst maintaining a speed no greater than 180 knots. Just going through some of the other questions I might have missed during the briefing. JK, JC Gaming, hi Flight Sim, love your stuff. Just curious, are there anything in the ZIBO not currently models that you'd like to see sown? If so, what is it? Are they? So, probably most of you aware I am part of the beta tester or beta testing team with the ZIBO mod. There's myself, there's a couple of other 737 pilots as well who frequently provide feedback for ZIBO. One of the things that I'd really like to see is VNAV is still is very good on approach now. ZIBO is working tirelessly. You'll notice on the approach here, or the initial descent, it's not planning an idle path descent quite correctly at the moment, so you have to add thrust quite a bit. But it's working very well on the approach. Another thing I'd like to see is the minimum manoeuvre speeds, which I need to talk about ZIBO. So you have a little amber bar here in reality, and on the top here, which move based on your G loading. I think that would be really difficult to program though. Like I said, I've got no idea how to program stuff. It's just feedback for him. So that's something else I'd like to see. But all the systems, from what I understand, are working correctly. So if I was to turn the packs off, open the pressurization valve, the airplane will depressurize. The fuel burn is pretty much 100% accurate. The thing that the ZIBO mod does, which you don't get with other platforms like FSX or Prepared, is the way it simulates the aircraft moving through air. So this aircraft, when you're on approach, the drag profile is no better than you get from real life. I mean, it's as good as real life, really. There's some slight differences, but it just feels, when I'm handling, I've got 4,000 hours on this aircraft, when I'm handling around it, it just feels right. You know, it's nothing artificial. It's just real. I can't really explain it much better than that. So that's why I love this mod, and it's the I only use X-Plane 11 now. I've actually uninstalled everything else. X-Plane 11 is the only sim I use, and I've only used it now for, well, nearly a year, I think. But it was simply someone that used X-Plane 11 invited me over. I can't remember who that was. I should give him more credit, really. Invited me over to X-Plane 11 and said try the ZIBO mod, and I said, oh, this is pretty good. And I think most of you agree with me, in the last 6 months the mod has progressed significantly now. It is, I mean, it's beyond payware. I mean, it baffles belief that this is free. Well, I say this every stream, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but for anyone that's new, get X-Plane 11, get ZIBO mod. The whole cost of everything you're watching here is less than £100. Alright, X-Plane 11 base model, everything, the only thing I've paid for that you can see right now was the Alicante airport we departed from. Everything else is free, even La Rochelle, which I'm flying into. Fantastic scenery from TDG. It's freeware, but it's payware quality. There's a link to that as well in the video description below. So yeah, it's unbelievable what you can get for no money. Good. So, approaching top of descent. I just wish it wasn't so cloudy again, but never mind. Just enjoy the scenery, but so be it. Right, we're just getting an update on the weather in La Rochelle. We'll probably still circle anyway, even if it swings slightly to favour 27. That's because it is such a short runway. So, menu, cars. I think if I press send again, it should update it. There we go, 850. Progress. There we go, 80. So 8:30, so it's updated, 20 minutes old. Yes, 180 at 14, so it's probably actually slightly favouring 27, but we'll circle on to 09 anyway. 14 knot crosswind as well, great. All the things that could possibly go wrong live. 15 knot crosswind. ZIBO mod is still need a bit of work on in crosswind handling technique, kind of aileron authority, but we'll have a go. Otherwise, clear skies, 20 degrees, 1015. And you can see now the throttle, that's on a Cessna. The thrust has gone to idle, back to the planned descent speed of, well, it should be going to 273 knots. I don't know why it's slowed down early there. But approaching top of descent, we'll set a lower level, just as we would do in real life. Probably give ourselves a slight shortcut, but we'll probably fly the mountain. We'll see how it gets on. Awesome. Liam Keir, how do you know what your top of descent is? Well, thankfully, on the 7.3 you have this little point here that says TD, and VNav calculates based on your altitude, working backwards, and any constraints where you need to start your descent from. But at the moment, the top of descent, the path is very shallow. Now, it should be a lot further in. 146 miles, we should be, yeah, it shouldn't be that far away. It should be about 120 or so. So you'll see, when we start descending, it will go idle, but the speed will come back. It's because ZIBO's still working on the idle path descent there. Cool. Right, so looking through some of the other questions. Stuart Walsh, I'm late 30s doing my ATPL, so it's not too late for me. It's definitely not too late for you. Yeah. Telling Holt back Heath. Yeah, absolutely. I've trained with people. I was quite young when I trained. I was about 21, 22. Took a massive bank loan for it. And there were people on my course, yeah, early 30s. And they're all now working for European operators, respectively. Pretty much all got jobs, so yeah, definitely, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of expansion going on. Right, so approaching top of descent, we do crest descent from ATC, so we'll get flight descent, clear descent. Let's set something quite low and random, 160. That would be a typical descent, to be fair, if there's not too much airspace. Altitude event, VNav path. Aircraft's now going to pitch down. This should go to retard and arm, especially as we're high, staying on FMC speed. No doubt ZIBO's probably watching this and already fixing it. Now he's seen it's not working. So, should go to retard arm first. Yes, there we go. Peter Dishwalt, I invited you. Yeah, this is the chap that invited me to Expo 11. I remember now. So, thanks to him, that's why I'm using this platform. I remember. I will go fish out that comment there, but I've probably got about 500 people messaging me on Facebook in total in the inbox. So, I do sometimes forget to who said what and whatnot. Cool, so VNav's going for this profile, that's normal, it's diving for this, speed increases, and then VNav will start pitching up to capture that profile. We're just coming overhead, SAU, Sierra Alpha Unit, VOR, and then we're going to make a left turn towards Bordeaux, which you can just about see, because you just about see the Atlantic Ocean there to the left hand side. Like I said, this is quite a, it's going to be, probably add some thrust at this point, 128, yeah, we're pretty low for that. If we times that by 3, we should be around 35,000 feet, we're at 31. That's because the ZIBO's mod is plans quite a shallow VNav at the moment, so you'll see I'll need to add thrust soon, just to maintain speed. I think it's getting fixed. Cool, so we are approaching flight level 300, angle of bank to 25 degrees. Check the pressurization again, diff 6.0, cabin altitude will slowly start decreasing. Auto, bleeds on, APU bleed off, all in auto. And then temperature's looking good in the cabin still. Do that every 10,000 feet in the descent, PM does. Valerio, what is that gauge on the PFD below the FMA that says 2.2? This is the angle of attack indicator. Now this is an option from Boeing. It's actually not fitted to our fleet, but it tells you the angle between your chord line of the wing and your airflow. And the higher the angle of attack, the more lift is produced. So when you slow down, your attitude increases to maintain the same amount of lift. But there is a critical angle attack, and if you exceed the critical angle attack, that's what causes a stall. Alright, so a stall, a lot of people associate stalls with airspeed. That is not technically correct. You can stall at any airspeed. You stall when you exceed the critical angle of attack. So you could stall at 287 knots. If I was to pull back on the stick now, quite hard, you could exceed the critical angle attack and stall. So that's an indication of that. What the actual critical angle of attack is, I don't know, because I don't have this gauge as an angle on the aircraft. It's going to be quite high, but yeah, it's an option for Boeing. You can see what it is on the real aircraft as well. You have something come up called pitch limit indicators, which are not modelled yet. That's also the attitude at which stick shaker occurs, which is just 1.1 times your stall speed, just above the stall there. Jordan Webb, start my type rating just over a week. Am I best off reading Ops Manual FCON? Well, if I think you say who you're working for, FCON, alright. FCON 1, Amplified Procedures, nail all that. Do not use my tutorials to learn anything. This is for entertainment only. Manuals, manuals, manuals. And all the documentation provided by the training department will help you out. You can have a flick through Ops Manual though, but certainly FCON initially. Right, so you can see the west coast of France there, just coming over some clouds. Bordeaux would be just there if you could see it, but not quite into view. Probably bring the star chart up as well for later. As I said, we're going to route probably Marin direct to Gags. We're not going to actually fly this arc here, because in reality Bordeaux would give you vectors, radar vectors there. Awesome. So we come up to 10 o'clock UK time, a little bit later for any of those in Europe, so if any of you is in the States now, it would be very, very early in the morning, but this is the only time I could stream in the next couple of weeks, so that's why I'm firing off now. Alright, so you can see how the speed's dropping off. That's more down to the mod. As I said, it doesn't quite plan an idle path descent at the moment, so I'm just, because we've got the auto throttle alarm, I'm just adding some thrust manually, and we're just going to manually control the speed at the moment. This should should be a little bit steeper, so the auto throttle has to be completely idle to maintain speed, but because it's slightly shallow, we're quite there. And that makes sense. So you see, with 100 miles to go, if you times that by 3, that should be approximately what height you are. So we should be at about 30,000 feet. We're at 230, so we're actually about, 5,000–7,000 feet low. But like I said, ZIBO's working on the idle path descent logic. Hopefully that will become more accurate. So at the moment, I've just had to add thrust to maintain speed here. Awesome. So overhead Bordeaux. Can't quite see the city. Actually, I've got these passenger views as well, haven't I? So if I press this, there you go, you can see over the wing. A lot of people said in the last stream, can we do some replays at the end? So what I'll do, I'm going to sign off and then I'll leave the replay on and I'll put some funky background music on you so you can enjoy some of the views from the window views and stuff, which I know a lot of people have asked for. But it depends how bad my landing is. If it's an absolute stonker of a touchdown, I'm not going to do any replays. No, I'm kidding, we'll plan on it. But yeah, this is a circling approach in a desktop simulator. I won't be able to see the runway turning final. It's probably the most difficult thing you can do, minus technical problems. So usually when I did the circling tutorial, it took me about 5–6 attempts. So I've got to do it first time here, otherwise I've got to, I'll respect all gates and stuff. So if I'm not stabilised at the gate, I'll go around like I would. We've got enough fuel for probably 2 approaches, but if after the second approach don't make it, we'd have to divert to Nantes, or do the ILS onto 27 into La Rochelle. But I didn't take any extra fuel because the weather was perfect. There's no reason to. So again, you can see we're not at idle thrust. The thrust is a little bit above that. That's just to maintain the speed. As I said, it's not 100% working correctly. Cool. So overhead Bordeaux now, continuing in this northwesterly direction. So if anyone that's from France or knows their French geography, I can't remember the name of this river to the north of Bordeaux. Very, very wide, flowing into the Atlantic. But, I bring up Avitab's map. Might say here, there's La Rochelle. What's this? There you go. So here's Bordeaux. Here's the river. Very wide. I've never actually flown into La Rochelle from the south, so I've never been this low over this area. Oh, some clouds have just been generated, so we can't see anything now anyway. But there we go. There's La Rochelle, so not too far away now. Airport charts. There we go. So, approaching flight level 160, we'll probably be chatting with Bordeaux Radar. They would deal with all the vectors into La Rochelle, because La Rochelle's a small airport, they don't have the facilities. But imagine they've cleared us to send flight level 80, continue towards Royan, then Maret, so that's set. 80 is checked. Just making a slight adjustment of the thrust. Like I said, I shouldn't have to be doing this, but in ARM you can. It's just planning a very idle path descent. Yeah, the road, oh god, of course it's the road. Yeah, I should know that, how embarrassing. Thanks, FSLUX. Something I don't remember, what does all the numbers and letters mean where it says ch on RNAV chart? Thanks, I know what that is meant. So these are Jepson charts, so I don't even know what you're referring to there. You'd have to go into more detail. RNAV, where it says Charlie Hotel, I have no idea. I probably should know as well, which is embarrassing. Oh, here, yeah, that's channel. So yeah, we don't have the EGNOS is a European stationary, European satellite stationary thing you can use. You can tune this up. We don't have that fitted to our fleet, but because it's RNAV GNSS with LNAV VNAV, we can use your manual. But yeah, it's certainly nothing you need to worry about. I don't know anything about it because we don't have the ability to tune into these satellites. So yeah, I see your question. I can't give you anything more detailed than that, I'm afraid. Cool, so approaching flight level 150, seatbelt sign on. It's approximately 15 minutes to landing, probably a bit more because it's quite a gentle descent. Michael, what clouds are you using? This is all default X-Plane 11 weather. No changes, no plugins either. This is just no changes to the weather. The only plugin I have for weather is this, which updates it more frequently. It doesn't actually change any of the textures or anything. Cool. So checking the temperature, 7 degrees, so below 10 we just need a spot of edge and anti-ice on before we enter clouds. Remember, tat of 10 degrees or less in visible moisture, you'll need it on. Oh, someone's just had a really good spot. Well done, Asham. Why the runway course is different? So, I mean, it's an RNAV approach. It wouldn't make any difference, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You should set these courses up. Like I said, on an ILS it's vital or a localizer, but on an RNAV it makes no difference. So I'm just simply doing it for situational awareness. So you can just go, oh yeah, the QDM is 273. But that was a really good spot. I forgot to do that during the setup there. So it is quite difficult to fly and set up and cover everything there, but on an ILS approach, very important to do that. And the approach checklist should hopefully capture that error. So just having to add a bit more thrust there. Like I said, it's just too shallow a descent at the moment in the ZIBO mod. SAFL 13, what is the minimum clean speed? It's the up speed, which is VREF 40 plus 70. So you can see here, up. So today it's going to be around 209 knots or so. 209 knots. Based on your gross weight, it will change. So I'm going to turn the alert box now. It gets a bit busy on the approach, so we can concentrate on what we're doing. Probably won't be looking at the comments so much either, because it is probably one of the more challenging manoeuvres, a circling approach. So I want to just make sure I'm doing it as I would do in real life, whilst juggling PF, PM, ATC, configuration, all that sort of stuff. So just again adding a little bit more thrust just to get the speed up to 273 knots. Said it's too shallow. So looking at some of the comments occasionally, Yoshi303, what version of the ZIBO mod are you flying? This is 3.30p. It's a beta version. I'm not sure if ZIBO's released this one publicly yet, but we have a private, ZIBO provides it to a private server for testing and stuff. So this is beta 1 of 3.30p, which is fine-tuned the auto throttle response, some subtle changes to VNAV, but it's probably not too different from the one that's currently public, which might be this version. I'm not too sure. I don't download it from the public Google Drive. So auto throttle's gone retard, and then arm, that's normal because we're approaching flight level 100. It wants to respect the speed restriction in the FMC, which is 240 below 100. Not monitoring the temperature, so 13 degrees. Turn the engine anti-ice off. You can see the FMC is reminding me. Start switches back to off. That message should disappear when you take the engine anti-ice off automatically, but we'll just clear it anyway. Cool. And here we go, under the clouds, looking a little bit murky, but should be fine. Actually gonna, if you use it on your phone, you can use the internet. That's what I use to get the latest weather. So we'll do that now instead of using the FMC. So I'm just refreshing La Rochelle. 21 degrees, QNH 1015, surface wind 170 at 14 knots. So it's again favouring, was pretty much a direct crosswind, but definitely runway 09 want to use. Cav OK, so no visibility issues. We can get straight in on 2709. The DNIC, have you been active in development of ZIBO? Yes, for some time now as well, for a few months. So I'm part of the beta team. ZIBO's very kindly put me on the credits, well, up there as well, so you'll see my name. So I provide feedback. So he's a real pilot on the 747 Audio XP, does all the sounds for the F mod. Very, very talented, both of these guys. Faye understands another pilot, haven't spoken to him personally, not sure who that is. These are all guys that do clever stuff. Laminar Research, obviously. Falco designed Avitab. Dr. Gluck makes terrain radar. And there's loads of other feedback. We've got a couple of other people in our Discord that fly 737 as well, who are great providing feedback there. Right, fuel. We could do the post-cruise checks, descending through 100. Fuel, 4 pumps, lights on. We'll leave the taxi light on until we're clear to land. APU's off. Pressurization is set. Angular bank 25 degrees. Recall. Do a PA to the cabin crew saying we have about 10 minutes to landing. I do excuse if I'm not looking at the comments as frequently now. It is because I am flying this descent, concentrating on that. Right, so we'll imagine that Bordeaux's now cleared its descent to 2,500 feet on the QNH of 1015, so that's set. QNH 1015 set. And we're doing altimetry cross-check now, passing 9,100 for altitude 2,500 feet. Put the ADF on. No flags, and the standby altimeter is set. We've got the ADF tuned, which is in a 4-bar final, but so we won't actually be using it for this approach. Right, so we should probably start seeing ourselves on the star chart soon. That's the approach. There we go, so we're just overhead Marion, and we're now routing to this 13.5 mile point, but I will very, very shortly route direct to Gags, which is what ATC would tell you to do. In reality, probably give you a shortcut. And we deleted the 2,500 restriction, remember, from here, because you had to be a level at 2.5. Well, actually, I'll just probably leave it as it is, just to keep it all stable. Right, so we can do the approach checklist now, so we check we've got everything correct. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is we're not flying the ILS, but if we actually select the ILS frequency, we'll have it as backup raw data. So if I go to here, ILS, just tune the frequency, and then we've got something to follow if it all goes to pot. 10955, so we can make that active, which is actually on standby there. So 10955. Have the range rings in for the approach as the glide slope. Not using it today, remember. Range rings for the approach. We have runway 27 for the configuration, runway 09 for the circling. Standby instruments are all set. Idents, it's an RNAV approach, so we don't need any idents for that. And the courses 273 are set. Well done to the chap that spotted that. We can now do the approach checklist, which you'll find on the control column. So approach checklist. Altimeters, instruments, set, cross-checked, approach, checked and sets, and the approach checklist is complete. Awesome. So VNAV's behaving itself reasonably well. It's holding 240 knots nicely. Here's the decel point to get to 220 knots as we approach day gags, because there is a speed restriction. I'm just adding a bit of thrust manually just to keep it around 240 knots. Looking good. Has got to retard arm because it's at its target speed. That's normal. And here we are. And again, remember, I am ignoring this restriction. This would be only applicable if military airspace was open. You'd be advised from board our radar. But if it was busy, they get you to level off at 2.5 very early and then fly around the arc. So, routing towards day gags now, continuing descent to 2,500 feet. 13.5 mile arc. We haven't got the DME distance here on the ILS. You would pick it up at this point. I think that's just a limitation with the X-plane. So far looking good. Probably configure flat 1 and 5 before turning final there. We've got a bit of a tailwind pushing us along at the moment. Awesome. Should be flying a bit of an arc, but it seems to have cut the corner slightly, and because I don't have any DME distance, it's quite hard to fly the arc manually. But I think it's just flying in a straight line. Right, so it's now bugged 220 knots. That's because that's the maximum speed on the chart at day gags. So if I bring up the chart here, you can see day gags max 220 knots for the initial approach fix. So we'll carefully monitor the approach there. So we'll make sure the aircraft slows down. If it doesn't, we'll use a bit of speed brake to ensure we're complying with all the speed restrictions. Let's make sure my rudder pedals are in a good position. So we'll be landing with a 15 knot crosswind. We'll need them. It's also asking a question about vectors and stuff. So yeah, if you'd be vectored into La Rochelle by Bordeaux radar, most likely then they'd route you direct to day gags, but so I don't have ATC, we won't use it there. So speed's a tad high, drag required because we're slightly above our target speed of more than 10 knots. So just what we're going to do, instead of using speed brake, because we're below 250, is go flat 1, alright, and open the speed window. And that should ensure we get that little bit of extra drag to comply with the speed restriction, whilst also slowing down for the approach while staying on VNAV. So there we go, probably a tiny bit fast, 226, we can get away with that. So just use a bit of speed brake just to get it below 220, as that is the initial approach fix speed limit. Okay, get to around 200 knots and then we'll stow the speed brake. Awesome, and now we can stow the speed brake, getting ready to turn final. Awesome, so glide slope's coming in. That's because we're approaching the point where we're turning final, but looking like we're a little bit low, and that's again because the VNAV's planning quite a shallow descent, but that is normal. So we probably get clear to La Rochelle Tower now. Tell them, yeah, approaching Gurko for the RNAV approach, and they say, yeah, RNAV approach, you are cleared the RNAV approach, and as it's circling, they'd ask you to call braking right or braking left off the approach to turn downwind. Now, just to save time, imagine they've just cleared us to land. I'll tell you the call we'd make anyway. And we're getting very, very low on the approach. That's because it's just the way VNAV's programmed. So I'm just going to go VS 300. To be on profile, we should be pretty much on the glide slope there. So it's planned a very, very shallow descent there. And we'll get VNAV back in quite shortly. Don't want to get too far off it though. Actually, screw it, because we need VNAV in for the approach. We'll stay on VNAV, just accept the high approach speed, and we'll go flat 5. or the fact that we're slightly low. So you'll find with the mod, it'll transition at Bravo Hotel 508 and be perfectly on profile, but it's just a very shallow descent prior to the fine approach fix, but it should follow 3.2 quite nicely after the FAF. Right, so flat 5, that's what you want to have selected turning final. Otherwise the speed can run away. And approaching 2 miles from the final approach fix, so we can now set 800 feet. Verify that VNAV PAF speed window's open. That ensures the aircraft doesn't level off. Oops. And here we are, onto the approach, and after this point we'll start configuring. You know, wish me luck. Looking okay. So remember, the ILS is there, but do not arm approach, alright? Otherwise you can't turn downwind or the aircraft won't level off at the missed approach altitude. So, approaching the final approach fix, you can see here, Bravo Hotel 508, we need to be at 2,500 feet. There we go, Bravo Hotel 508, overhead 2,500 feet, so that's all accurate. And now the aircraft's going to pitch down to follow the 3.2 degree virtual glide path. I'm just going to go flap 10 because it is slightly steeper than the normal glide path at 3 degrees, so 3.2 is slightly steeper. Speed 10 will just ensure the speed doesn't run away from the flat 5 speed, and we'll just wait till 4 miles to configure, get down flat 15. And remember, we're going to select landing flat after we circle break off. I'll be guarding Toga on this approach quite a bit here, alright? It is not easy to circle in a desktop simulator. Are you nervous? I'm nervous. I'm nervous. A lot of people watching. My credibility's at stake. Good. So approaching 4 miles. Configure, get out. Flap 15. Match speeds. Landing checklist of flaps. Start switch is continuous. Recall checked. Speed brake arm green light. Landing gear down 3 green. Order brake set to 3. We're just holding on the flaps. We won't select the landing flap until turning final. So the real aircraft, we'd wait until outer quiet. Outer quiet is very early in the mod at the moment. So outer quiet aircraft's leveling off at 800s. We wouldn't do anything in reality, but I'm actually going to preset the heading here to turn upwind. Wait until out hold engages, but I just want to wait until the aircraft's fully level. So we'd have to be visual now. If not, we'd have to go around from this point. So there's level out hold 800 feet, heading select, out holds engage. We can now set the missed approach altitude 2,500 feet. We're now braking off for the circling approach for runway 09. And remember the track we're looking for, 318. We'd have to take the wind into consideration looking at that. So long as we get 318 here, all is good. And now we can start a timer when the wings are level. Matching heading now. Okay, so wings level. Start timing, and it's 20 seconds, okay, minus any wind components. So we've got a 12 knot tailwind, so half of that is 6, and 20 minus 6 will be 14 seconds on this heading. Probably call it 15, 16, just because it will give me more time turning final. So there's the time. We can now turn downwind, 273. Because we've got a crosswind, probably a few more degrees away, and you've got to be in view of the runway at all times, alright? So if you lost sight of the runway, you'd have to go around. I want to track here around 273. So looking good, just outside the inner circle with the closest scale. We're a little bit more to the left because of the crosswind, and now we're waiting until we're abeam, which is that 003 radial I made. But making sure it's outside, okay, the radial could be slightly off. So there's the abeam point there. So we're pretty much abeam now, so we can start the timer again. And remember the timing was 22 seconds, alright, minus any tailwind component. There's no tailwind, so we'll call it 22 seconds before turning final. There's 15 seconds, so getting ready. Alright, and the runway heading coming in now. So runway heading was 093, flap 40. Don't forget to match the speed, otherwise you can overshoot the final turn. Now really carefully monitoring this trend vector. Alright, try and get it on the extended magenta line or white dash line there should be there. And you can alter your angular bank, so we're already looking okay at the moment. I'm going to leave where it is. Water throttle's adding thrust because of the high drag configuration. Flaps. 40-40 green light. Lights are on. We are clear to land. Checklist is complete. Alright, so probably turning slightly inside. You can inhibit that. That's spurious caused by the glide slope on the other runway. And there's the runway there. Still looking okay. So I've altered the angle of bank just to make sure we roll out on the extended centre line. Really thinking about disconnecting soon. Okay. Can't quite see the pappies yet. That's probably good to disconnect. Alright. Now this is where it's hard. Flight director's off. Lower the thrust. And don't delay doing what I'm doing. Straight away to 0 degrees. Alright. Otherwise you will not descend. Alright. That's a good target attitude for flat 40. I'm hoping when we see the runway the pappies are good. 3 reds, so a tad low. Not bad. Alright. So I'm just going to pitch up slightly just to level off. Get back onto my 2 reds, 2 whites. Remember, I've got a 15 knot crosswind as well to contend with. Just watching my rate of descent there. Don't want to get any lower. Add the thrust to keep the speed under control. 2 reds, 2 whites. So back to that target attitude of around 0 degrees for flat 40. Sorry about the jerky scenery. And now I've got to consider this crosswind. So now I'm going to start turning right. Pappies are good. Speed's good. So there's a displaced threshold.
200.
There we go. Looking
100.
good. Get ready for the rudder.
50. 40.
Okay.
30.
Check. Close hold. Bit of left rudder to get the wheels down the runway. Keep the wings level. Aileron. There we go. Touchdown. Bit of firm. I'll take that aileron into wind. Speed brake up. Reverses. Rudder with centre line. Keep the aileron into wind. Auto brake's very effective. It was the reverse for us, so I'm going to cancel that. Back to idle. And we have to roll all the way to the end of the runway here. Well, that was a busy approach, if you agree, alright? It worked, though. We didn't have to go around. Completely stable. No one died. Idle reverse. And I'm still using the rudder to maintain centre line. Once below 30 knots, you put your hand onto the tiller. There we go. Start braking manually now. Excellent. Want about 10 knots for the turn on the turning paths. And there we go. I can relax. That went alright actually for a stream circling approach. All stabilised by the gate. And now we can make the turn on the runway. Cool. So I'll put the alert box back on. If you have any questions and stuff, I'll answer that in the comments section after we get back onto stand. And when you're on an active runway backtracking, you can go up to, well, again, company specific. You can do about 50 knots or so. So we'll keep it nice and slow just to make sure we keep the clean up all correctly. And so bring the flaps up. Retract the speed brake, which has already been done because of the thrust coming up. Auto brake to off. Flight director's off. They already are. 3,000 feet. 100. This to 0. Nice slow steady speed. I know if I look on the overhead panel I'm going to be off the runway, so I'll do it quickly. Probes off. This can go to auto. We'll leave the lights on until we vacate the runway. Yes! Didn't go off. Veer off to the side. And there we go. So the view, flaps retracting. We'll do a replay from this view as well so you can see exactly what a passenger would see during the circling approach there. Oops. So yeah, that's the problem if you lose other views. So it's not over yet. We've got to park, and parking in La Rochelle is very difficult because it's such a narrow apron. We need to do a tight turn on a turning pad to point the wrong way, so you'll be always learning something new on this stream. Awesome. So here's the turn point. Start braking manually. 10 knots for this turn. Feel that it's braking very hard, but it's only one sort of braking force you can use really in the default Expo 11. That's full brakes, but never mind. Okay, so vacating the runway. This is the whole point. That's when the runway is vacated, but we can now turn landing lights off, leave those lights on for taxi, and strobes to steady 2. And we'll get the APU started because it's a very short taxi. So here's a very narrow apron. Alright, here's the French flag flying just like it is there in real life. Get the taxi chart up, and here we are vacating at Alpha. And look at this very small apron. So we're going to park on stand 4, and we have to do a very tight turn to be pointing the marshaller here. So it's quite tricky. You'd be definitely using the first officer turning onto the pad to make sure we're all clear of the wings. And it might look quite surprising at where I actually start the turn, but it is completely clear of all obstacles. We have people marshalling to ensure if anything was likely to collide, you would have someone tell you to stop the aircraft. So we'll go all the way over to stand 4. Excellent. Here's stand 4. Idle thrust, definitely. Gone quite idle. There's the turn. And I'm really looking at this arrow. This arrow is when I want to start the turn onto the turning pad. So you'll see I get very close to the fence before I start the turn. That's completely normal. When the wings are quite a way behind you. We'll get the AP on the bus now. And it's a very, very sharp right turn in seconds. We're going to continue forward. Still keep going, still keep going, still keep going, still keep going, and now we're going to make a right turn. Alright, so it looks like we're really close to the fence, but if we go into the tower view, you can see we're just inside the turning pad still, and hopefully we'll roll out turning final. It's all looking good. And it looks from this screen, oh, look at all the obstacles and stuff, but yeah, this is as tight as it can get really. Pretty much full right rudder. Hopefully the marsh is telling me to turn right soon. There we go, his hands up, so that tells us that he's seen us. And hopefully it will keep telling me to turn right in a second. It looks like we're quite right. Yeah, there we go, so he's giving me the instructions to turn right. Probably overshot slightly. Yeah, it's telling me to go left. Should be pretty much on the centre line. Just going to go overshoot it slightly. And now make a left turn. And then it will tell me to stop here. There we go. Stop, parking brake set. See how I did, eh? Rubbish, look, not on the line, but that's not easy to do there. The marshal will be giving you instructions, right, 2 blues, 1 red. We can now shut the engines down. Excellent, that should be actually on as well. Release the passengers. And just do the transit checks, turn those off so you don't blind the guy outside. And then just waiting for EGT to drop an N2 to go 20%. We'll turn it off now. And there we go. See what the marsher sees. There he goes. Look, it's pretty inanimate, as is with most people in Expo 11. Very cool. And here we are in La Rochelle. The scenery is completely free. It's from TDG Design. You've got the link in the video description below. There you go. That's the transit shutdown checklist done. Not much. And then don't forget to read the transit shutdown checklist. Alright, there we go. Comment there. Trust the French to design the airport. Brilliant. Yep. Good one. Oh dear. So yeah, thanks for all the comments. Just flicking through. Great job, thanks. Hearts pumping. Mine was 2. Yeah, that's a circling approach. Went pretty well, to be fair. So you can follow the feedback there. If you have any questions, continue to leave them in the comments section. You've got the links you can see at the top. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You will see I put occasional pictures on there, so you can find that quite enjoyable and all that sort of stuff. And we'll sign you off there, but a lot of people asked could we always see the replays and stuff, so we'll put that on, and we'll put some funky music on the background too, and then you can watch replays when I sign out, and then we'll end the stream. So if I go here, flight, toggle replay mode, let's get onto the approach at least. It's quite early there. Just do the landing first, alright? Let's do the landing so we can see how that looks from the threshold as the scenery is all reloading up. And then we'll do the whole approach from the window view. So we'll unfreeze the sim and let's get some funky music on. There we go, coming over the threshold. See the crosswind technique, and then we'll go for the window views for the approach. There's the crosswind pushing the aircraft slightly sideways. Moving around. And coming over the threshold. Fantastic noise. Blocking the music out. And you'll see the rudder coming in very shortly for the crosswind. Bit of left rudder. Get all the free wheels pointing down. Gear touchdown. And then aileron into wind. And use rudder to maintain centre line. So guys, thank you very much for watching the stream. I hope you found it enjoyable. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find all the videos on my channel in the homepage. I hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you in the next stream and tutorial in the very near future. Take care, and bye bye guys.